This is define and implement continuous integration. Part 1 is already completed. This is our part 2. I welcome everyone, all those who joined today's session, and all the speakers who contributed to. Ashish, please share the part 2 sessions, part 2 slide. Okay, so before we start, I welcome and thanks all the speakers, all the AzureTalk core team member who are contributing for this effort and helping people learning this cloud technologies. We have conducted sessions on AZ-5, AZ-900, AZ-104, and currently we are doing the sessions for AZ-400. Myself, Vipin Shah, I am a MCT and I do training for Microsoft technologies, specifically for Azure and some other Microsoft product. I do some consulting as well. And in our core team, we have Ram Murthy. He is a cloud architect. He's also an MCT. Then we have Ashish Raj. Ashish Raj is a DevOps architect. He's also an MCT, and he's going to be the DevOps speaker for today's session as well. And he has conducted all the previous sessions for DevOps in this community. Then we have Shri. He is a cloud solution specialist. Kirtika Gupta, she's a cloud engineer and help us in contributing all the session. Then we have Nitanshu Sharma. He has also contributed in several sessions for Azure DevOps in past, and he would be contributing many more sessions in upcoming. So these are the core team member, and without the help, without the collaboration of these people, it was not possible to deliver these sessions. So I must say thanks to all these people. Then for today's speaker, we have Ashish Raj. So Ashish Raj would be the primary speaker for today, who will be delivering the today's session. And then we have our secondary speaker for today. He's Sanjeev Panigari. Sanjeev Panigari is also AzureTalk core team member. He is a senior software program manager and the MCP. Now, so these two people will be delivering the sessions for today. Now, for all these sessions that we are having for AZ-400, in every sessions we have some quiz at the end of the sessions, and there are few lucky winners. In every sessions we have 6 lucky winners who generally win the exam voucher. So if you're a lucky winner, you can win the exam voucher and appear for this exam for free of cost. And for the people who attended the previous sessions, we will announce the winner for those sessions today. And for all the people who are going to appear for the quiz today, the winner for today's session will be announced in the next session. So our next session will be 3 weeks from now, that is the 16th of January. Now, to win this exam voucher, you need to attend this session, as well as you have to register all the sessions for AZ-400 on Eventbrite. So if you have not yet registered for all the sessions, make sure you register there as well, because the lucky winner will be selected from the people who are registered in Eventbrite for all the sessions. We would be having total 8 sessions on AZ-400. Today is the 4th session, and after this there will be 4 more sessions that would be coming in the future. So I thanks all those people who have taken part on quiz, and will be announcing those winners today, post sessions. So going further, we have some Telegram group. You can search with AzureTalk and Azure AZ. You can tag this in the LinkedIn, in the post and all. So Ashish would be taking over from here now, and will help you on all the certification path for this AZ-400.
Thanks, Vipin. Thanks for the introduction. Okay, so today, as Vipin has, informed that this is our fourth session in AZ 400 exam, curriculum, and today we are going to discuss about the next module, that is continuous integration and continuous integration part two. Before we go into the next uh, module for today agenda, we just want to quickly cover this examination path, for which we are having the training currently. So before you go for AZ 400, or if at all you want to complete the DevOps certification uh, badge that is from Microsoft, you there is a prerequisite for that badge apart from AZ 400 exam, and that is you either have to have an administrator associate exam, or you should have a Azure developer associate exam. Which is AZ 104 or AZ 204. AZ 104, as Vipin has said, we have already conducted a training for this. You can go to our YouTube channel. You can go to that playlist, and you can definitely, if at all you are preparing for AZ 104, you can go ahead with that playlist. We are also planning something around AZ 204, but not yet. But probably if you will join our Telegram group, you will soon get to hear something about AZ 204. That will be again a free certification training from our group. Now, once you have any one of the prerequisite, the another exam that you need to take is AZ 400, for which the training is going on currently, and that is designing and implementing Microsoft DevOps solutions. Once you have any one of the prerequisite and this exam cleared, then Microsoft gives you a badge which is called Microsoft Certified DevOps Engineer Expert, which is an expert level badge, and that is the whole path of having a certificate from Microsoft. Now, to have this, AZ 400 exam, which is designing and implementing Microsoft DevOps solutions, you have to go through certain topics, certain module. For each module, we are conducting different sessions, and this is our fourth sessions covering one of the module from this. Uh, One of the module is facilitating communication and collaboration. We have already conducted a training on this particular module. Next is managed source control. That is also we have already conducted. If you want to watch the recording, you can definitely go to our YouTube channel, and then there is a playlist for AZ 400 exam, and there this recording is hosted there. All of these previous recording. Define and implement continuous integration. As you can see, it contains 20 to 25% of the exam, which is a major chunk of this exam. So we splitted this particular part into two parts. One part is already covered. The second part we are going to have today. And then in upcoming sessions, we are going to have all these different modules in upcoming exams, in upcoming sessions. So this is the session, this is the module that we are going to discuss today. Define and implement continuous integration, part two. So part one is already done. So some part of it we have already conducted in our previous session. Now this is the continuous into the same module. And then in upcoming sessions, we will be taking forward another modules like continuous implement, continuous delivery, instrumentation strategy, and all other things. Now let's go to the today's agenda. So today's agenda is, as we have already discussed certain part of this module in our previous session, so it will be a part of this particular module. One thing that we are going to discuss in detail today is design a package management strategy. So we will be talking about what exactly a package management is in your application lifecycle management. We will talk about what are the certain various, certain best practices or certain things you need to take care, while you are designing your package management strategy. Then we will be talking about certain application infrastructure management concept or strategy. So there we will be talking about what are the various things you need to keep in your mind when you are deploying or when you are talking about continuous integration. Then how do you take care of certain pieces, certain configuration, which are application infrastructure specific. So for that, let's talk about the first module, which is design a package management strategy. So when we talk about package management, we first need to understand what exactly a package is. When we talk about various, when you design a continuous integration of application which you have developed using certain platform, that those platforms can be .NET, Java, Python, JavaScript frameworks, any one of them you can have it. Now, for each of these frameworks, normally what happens, you might want to use, or you might want to do certain basic or some certain common things, like encryption and decryption, or you may want to use a API, and for which you have a certain basic functionality. Now, for those kind of things, people do create packages and host it. Sometimes they host it on on a public repository, or sometimes they host it internally. So what exactly that is that, for certain type of application, you have a certain task which are common. So for Java, there might be certain tasks which are very common, which are very commonly used by application developers who develop application in Java. Now, for those common tasks, instead of reinventing the wheel again and again, what this application package management system does is to you is, you can what exactly it does is that, suppose you have your application, all right, and this application might have certain things which is like, A, B, C, and D. Now these are the things that you need to implement. Now these A and B, suppose this is application 1. Now there is another application which can be within company, or which can be, outside company on the internet, which is application 2, and this must be implementing some, you know E and F, but there is a common thing which is A and B. A and B tasks are common between these two. So, if normally what will happen is, these developers will develop these A and B along with their custom requirement, and they will have all these things. And similarly, this application too will developers team develop development team will also do implement this with certain, different way, but in nutshell, they are implementing, or they are doing the same thing. What will happen, this code is redundant, like, these guys are also implementing the same thing, these guys are also implementing the same thing. Then this package management method, or this kind of what I would say, a strategy, helps you to, instead of using these two places to have the similar kind of functionality, why don't you have a package management repository, or a source or a server, or whatever you can call, and there you will have host A and B, right? A and B, there you will host. And instead of developing here in application 1 and 2, what you will do is, you will, instead of developing here and there, you just go there, you remove it from these individual applications, and what you do is, you call these package management repositories, so sources, or whatever you can call, and you import them over here, and you import them over here. That way, anything that needs to be changed, you will be changing here. It will automatically, your application 1 has to take it, the updated one, if at all they want, or if they want to use the, older one. Those kind of decisions can be made, but in such a way, you will have a package which is hosted somewhere, and that is what we call package repository. We will be talking about in detail in upcoming slide, but this is how this whole, package management system is going to help you to manage certain dependencies, certain things which might be common, in different applications within organization, outside organizations, on the internet. It can be anything. So this package repo or package source can be outside organization, can be publicly hosted. We will be talking about all those options, but this is how the whole package management system works. Now let's talk about what are the various common package management system are available. So there are, for Microsoft .NET framework, if if you're familiar with the Microsoft ecosystem, you must have heard NuGet package management, package management server, which is nothing but a way to host packages which are developed in .NET. So it's a package management system for .NET developers. Similarly, you have Node.js. For Node.js modules, you have npm. For Python, you have Python packages. And then in Microsoft Azure Artifact, which is part of Azure DevOps services, it calls it universal packages. We'll be talking about this one in detail. But what it, in a very a quick way, what you can understand is anything which does not get defined but still can be considered as a package, something like a zip file or some file format which is not yet defined as a package from any of the package management system, then you can call it as a universal package. And Microsoft Artifact does give you an option to host certain packages which are not yet defined, or which do not have a custom way of hosting those packages, like NuGet has for .NET, like npm has for Node, like Python, repositories are have, PIP and all are having, have for Python, Python script or Python packages. If at all you have a custom package that you have developed, you can host it as a universal package in Azure Artifact. That is the option that you have, other than these different package system. Maven is for Java. So if you are developing Java and if you want to host that particular thing as a package so that other people can use it in their application development, you can host it as a Java package, Maven package. And similarly, nowadays you must have heard this Docker thing is coming into picture. Now in Docker as well, there is something called package. We don't call it package, but it just like a package only, Docker images. So what you do is you develop your Docker, you customize it, you do all the things, and then you create a Docker image, and then you share that Docker image with your with your teams who are working on their application development. Who want to consume this Docker image and create a Docker file, Docker instance, whether in a in a cluster or whether in a Docker, in a self individual environment or whatever. But Docker also has a packaging system, and the package, the smallest unit of Docker deployment or the package is known as Docker images. There are various other options as well, but yes, this is something which is starting point from the Docker point of view. When you create a Docker image, you create, when you are working with a Docker system, you create a Docker image, then you create a Docker instance based on that image. So that's how this various things are there. And then apart from this, on the slide, there are various package management system that entirely depends on what type of development ecosystem you are talking about. Right now, we have just covered few of the most commonly used package management system, but there are many. It can be, based on your need, your development platform that you're using. For example, for PowerShell, you have a PowerShell gallery where you can host your PowerShell modules. So that is also a type of package management system only. So similarly, you have various options. You can explore this, but the idea over here is that have a package, publish it somewhere so that other people can use it instead of reinventing the same wheel. Instead of developing the entire thing again and again. Same, that is the whole idea about package management system. Now, when you talk about package management system, there are two types of package management system. One is public and one is private. So, public is that when you host your packages, and if it is available on the internet, publicly available, you call it as a public package. I mean, public package repository. And if you kind of host it in an internal on-premises world, you call it as a private package repository system. There are various online system where you can just create your package and you can host it there. So there are some of the common package management system which are public are listed here. One is NuGet.org. So if you have a NuGet package, if you have developed a NuGet package based on the .NET platform. And if you think you want to open source it, or you want to share it publicly, you want to share it with the community, you can directly go to this page, and you can start looking at what are the various ways you can host it, and then anyone on the internet will be able to discover your package and will be able to consume it. Similar to this, you have this npmjs.org, that is a way to host your npm packages. And then you have python, for python packages, this is the public repository that you can use for hosting your python packages or script. And then in the last, what we are telling, this Docker Hub, which is there for hosting your Docker images. So if you are already working on Docker, or if you are already using Docker, and then you must be getting some of the package, some of the Docker images from the public repository, that is Docker Hub. You can have your own private repository system as well, which is not public. So suppose you are developing a Docker image, or you are developing a NuGet package that you cannot use, that you cannot publish it on the public website. Then there are this private thing is there, which is going to help you to host it on-prem, which is, you can control the access, you can control who can look at it, who can use it, who can consume it, who can publish on it, and all those things. For that, you have this my feed. We will be looking at this particular thing in our Azure artifact, but this is when you can name it whatever. My feed, just a name I have given. That is a way to create your feed in Azure artifact. So Azure artifact is a package management system from Microsoft Azure DevOps Services, from where you can create your own package management system, and you can call it whatever you want. You can call it my feed, you can call it custom, company feed, you can call it whatever you want. But this is what it is. Then you can, for Docker images, suppose you are developing Docker images, you are customizing it, you are adding up your on-premise, your company applications, Dockerizing it, and then you want to host it on a Docker repository system. Then possibly you might not want to go into the Docker Hub system, because that is publicly available. So the moment you publish anything on the Docker Hub, anyone can go there, can look at it, and then probably they can pull it on their system, and then they can use it. But you might not want that happen to on your for your internal applications. For that, you have Azure Container Registry. So Azure Container Registry is an Azure service. So you have to have a Azure subscription for that. So you go to the Azure subscription, you search for Azure Container Registry, you create Azure Container Registry. The moment you create Azure Container Registry, it gives you a system similar to Docker Hub, except one thing, that it is internally available, and you can use all those Azure identity access management systems like Azure AD and all, to kind of put security restrictions, so that where whosoever is, within organizations, whosoever you have given access should be able to look at those packages, should be able to download those Docker images, and can use those things. So you can do all those things with Azure Container Registry. Having said that, this is Azure Container Registry. Similar options you have with other major cloud providers as well. So you have container registry services from Google Cloud as well. You have a similar kind of setup from AWS as well. So it is completely up to you whether you want to go with the Azure Container Registry, or you want to go with the other cloud system. But it is available, that will help you to publish your own images on a privately available container registry system. Azure Artifact, we have already discussed. Azure Artifact is another options that you can explore. You can publish your packages. You can, kind of control the security part of it. You can look at it, who is having access, who can access it, who cannot access it, and all those things. And you can create your feed, and you can publish your packages. You can have customized permissions, like some people who does have access to publish the packages. Some people who only have access to consume the packages, they might not be giving, they might not, should not be able to update those packages, and all those kind of custom access and control will be possible using Azure Artifact. And then you have certain solutions like JFrog Artifactory. We have not named it here, but this is the one of the options you have, which gives you a self-hosted solution. So JFrog Artifactory is one kind of package management system where you can host your artifact on your on-prem, and then it is giving you a similar kind of solutions what Azure Artifacts gives. The only difference here is that Azure Artifact is a online SaaS solution. JFrog also gives you an on-prem solution as well. So with Azure Artifact, there is another on-prem solution as well, which is Azure DevOps Server. But if at all you don't want to explore the Azure DevOps ecosystem, if at all it's done, there are various options. JFrog is one of the other, one of the what I would say market leader in package management system world for having a on-prem or online package management system. JFrog Artifactory. Now, when you put your packages on any of the package management system, whether it is on public or whether it is private, you have to make sure that when you publish your packages, you are actually publishing your dependencies. So what is there is that, as we have discussed, let me go through it. So we have already discussed that, suppose there are certain component like A and B, and you want to host it on your server. I mean, that is your package management system. Now this thing, and suppose you have done some update over here, A, and now this A is being used in application app 1, and then app 2 is also using, just like a previous example, app 2 is also using. So here also this A is being used and B is being used. Here also this A is being used and B is being used. Just kind of thing. Now, all of a sudden you thought that you need to update this A. So there is some changes that needs to be done on A, and when you make those changes on A, those changes might not impact this application 2 the way it is using, but it may impact application 1 because it might be using it in a different way, and the changes you have done, it might not be applicable to application 1. Now application 1, what so when you updated this A package, application 1 want to continue using the previous code or the previous version. That's where this versioning part comes into picture, where you want to control that which version, what changes you are doing, so that your consumers, your users are aware that these are the things are happening. And if at all I want to use this version or the latest version or the previous version or whatever the version they want to use. So if at all you are using some versioning system where you can manage that, okay, this was version A, now we have updated version 2, now 2 is available. It is up to the application 1 and application 2 that whether they want to continue using version 1 or they want to come into version 2 option, which is the latest one. So that kind of versioning, that kind of situation will arise if at all you don't have a versioning system. So if you're just continuously updating your packages A and B, if you do not have any tracking of the versioning, using a version system, then your consumers might get confused with the latest update and they might having a breaking changes there. So for that, you have this versioning system. Now, when you implement versioning system, there are certain, certain popular way of managing this versioning system. We will be talking about the most popular 2 ways. The first one is Samware. So Samware is one of the versioning system where they call this first part as major, second part as minor, and the third part as a patch. Now, what do we mean by major, minor, and patch is being explained by this particular table. So whenever you are making some breaking changes into your package, so suppose you have a package like 1.2.3, all right? Now suppose you know this package, whatever A, B, whatever you may want to call. Now suppose you are making some changes, and those changes are going to, you know, whatever the code we have here is going to change the way this particular A package works. You know, it will not be backward compatible. It is going to change the whole implementation of one of the class or function in a way that it is going to change, or it is going to break the 1.2.3 way of using it. Maybe you are renaming the complete function name. So when you are renaming the function name, and if at all someone is using the function name for doing certain things, so suppose this A dot sum is being used to calculate the sum, but somehow, you know, you made some changes. The new version comes with A dot sum all, you know, just that, you know, something you have added here all. Now the old code was calling this particular function like this. Now it will break the code. It is going to break the code. So such kind of breaking changes when happens, then you have to, you know, make changes into the major part of it. So any breaking changes happens, so the next version will come like this 2.0.0, like this. So this is version 2. The major version has to change when you are making some breaking changes, when things can break the way people are using it. And that's why we call it major. Similarly, you, if at all you are doing some changes, but they are not going to implement certain things like that, they will continue using this A dot sum. Internally you are making some calculation changes. Internally you are making certain things, but the input and the output thing is not changing. You know, people can still continue using this way of calling this function. Then in those cases, the such kind of changes will not be called as breaking changes, and that's why we will call it minor. And in such cases we will continue using one for major, but we will update this version as 3.3, something like this. So 3 is changed because there is a minor change that is not impacting the functionality of the package, but at the same time it is a considerable change because calculation has different, the, you know, earlier you were calculating some differently, now you are calculating internally, the method is being changed and all. Now the third thing, which is micro or patch, people call it micro or patch, is when actually this package 1.2.3 had some bugs. All right, certain things. So suppose when people were calling A dot sum, because of internal calculation with certain inputs, suppose for 0 or for a certain number or certain negative number, it was not, you know, giving the output as expected. Certain bug fixes or maybe certain enhancement in terms of, you know, giving the output in a way, in much better way. Maybe some log information is also coming up, maybe some verbose information is also coming up. So you know, those kind of update or those kind of things, if you are changing, then instead of making this minor change, you will make it like 1.2.4. So this number will change if you are making certain things as a bug fix. All right, or some cosmetic changes, certain things to make it little bit more better in terms of cosmetic or in terms of giving little bit more details, not in terms of functionality in general. There can be some small functionality changes as well as a bug fix or as a patch fix, but mostly it goes through minor changes. So that is how the version number changes. If you know, if you are implementing these versioning system, this is how your version number changes. And then certain, you know, certain packages or certain softwares use modifier as well. Here we do not use modifier, but in some cases you might have heard that 1.2.4 beta or alpha or release or RC1, whatever. I mean, based on the functionality. So sometimes they, you know, they will release 1.2.4, but they will call it dev because it is not yet, you know, it is not yet productionalized. I mean, they are not ready for the production. So they will call it, you know, put it as a modifier so that whosoever is looking at those package updates, whosoever is using those packages are aware that it has not been released yet. It is still in dev, alpha, beta, or RC. RC is release candidate. So these kind of, this is how this whole package management system or this particular packaging system package versioning system works. Now the another, one of the popular way of using package management system is this. Instead of this major, they use dates or years. So probably, you might have heard of versioning system of Ubuntu and all. They use something like 16 or 18. So it denotes year here. And then minor and major, minor and micro are the same thing. The only thing is that instead of major, they call, they nominate this particular thing as a year number, so that every year when they, if they are releasing a particular software version, they will name it like that. There are various other there are various other versioning system which are there, but these are the few which are popular among major package management system, and people use these kind of versioning system to, whenever they are updating certain things in their package, they do try, they do change accordingly the version number, so that the consumer will be aware that if at all I am upgrading, all right. So previously it was 1.2.3. Now the developer has released a 2.0.0. Then when I am upgrading 1.1 to 2, then I know that this is a major change. All right, there might be some breaking changes. So I might have to look into the change sheet. When there is a package version change, developers do maintain a change sheet where they will be mentioning that what are the things that has changed from this version to this version. So they, while upgrading to major version, you might want to have a look on this change sheet, which will tell you that what are the things being changed in this next version. And if at all you are using those things, and you think your application can break because of those changes, then you might have to plan it in a much better way, or you can directly go ahead and upgrade it if at all you're not making use of all those options. So normally in packages, people don't really use all the functionality. They might be using certain one aspect of it. So if those aspects are not changing in the next major release, you need not to worry about. But yes, if you are using those things which are being changed as a major release, then you may have to look at it, if at all that is going to impact your application, if you are upgrading your package. Similarly for minor and patches, so minor, you should be rest assured that there might be some changes in the functionality, there might be some changes in terms of the output that you are getting, but it should not break your application in the current state. And similarly for patches, it will only fix the problems that is already there, or some cosmetic changes, but it should not break, or it should not impact the functionality of the application. And that's how it is helping both the consumers and the package publisher, to manage the package dependency oops, in the system. Now let's clean this up, and now let's go to the next slide, where we are talking about package dependencies. When you use your packages, when you are using packages, so suppose you, again coming to the same example, so you have this app A1 and you have this app 2. Now you are using some functionality you have custom developed, all right, but you are using some A and B, all right, and probably there must be some version number there, right? 2.0.0, just an example. And there also you might be using these packages coming from some package management system. It can be anything, Azure Artifact, JFrog Artifact Tree, or whatever. You are taking these packages from there, all right. Now, what happens that suppose these packages might be some public packages like NuGet.org, right? Now this NuGet.org is a public thing, right? We have already discussed this is a public repository. There might be this package might be coming from a developer which you don't know. This guy might be, this guy might not be following your organizational standard. This guy might not be following the security standard of your organization. So he's just developing A, and he published it on the public repository like NuGet, Docker Hub, or anywhere. And then because you are a developer and you just came through that, okay, there is a package A which does this encryption, or which does give you a way to access SQL in a way, or which gives you certain functionality, and you just start using it. All right, you just start using it in your development because you want to quickly develop your prototype. Now what may happen is that this developer A, knowingly or unknowingly, might be doing certain coding or certain things which should not be allowed in your organization. The first thing is a security thing, right? So because you do not have any idea what the code he is writing. You are just, when you take a package, then you are just concerned about the functionality of the package. So if I am taking a package which do the encryption and decryption, and then it gives me a function to do that, then probably it will say that, okay, use just a dot inc, or maybe a dot encrypt to encrypt, and a dot decrypt to decrypt. Simply, I mean, they will just, now inside that function what they are doing you might not be aware, because the code is not exposed to you. It might not be open source, or even if it is open source, you cannot control that aspect because this is being owned by someone else, and who is publishing it. Now if you are using this package, and if it is being used in your application, then you are responsible for maintaining the security of your app1, which includes this A as well, because you are using it. Now to look at such dependencies, right? So we call it dependency because this A is coming from outside, but your application is dependent on it. Similarly, application 2 is also dependent on B, and this might be coming from some other developer or organization. So, it is very important when you use, or when your developer uses such dependencies, then, if developer is making sure that when he's picking the package, he's consulting with the infosec, he's consulting with the security organizations within company, that, okay, I'm taking a package from Docker Hub, I'm taking a package from what you call NuGet org, or any public repository, and he is making sure that all these things are coming as per the organization standard. That's fine, but that's not how it works, and it is very difficult to achieve a very agile solution in that way, because it will take a lot of time to coordinate all these people, security, development, engineering, all these people. So in those cases, what if you are designing the CI pipeline for your application? If you are designing your CI pipeline, that is continuous integration pipeline, the build process, then you might want to look at those dependencies as well, that what are the things being used in the application. For that, various application integration tools like the Azure artifacts or GitHub gives you certain options like dependency graph, depend about alert, and dependency security update. So, this is the screenshot that we have shown here from the GitHub, but similar kind of option you have in other, solutions like White Source. So White Source Vault is another tool which can be integrated with your Azure pipeline. All right, you can integrate White Source Vault into your Azure pipeline, or you can make use of these features in GitHub. And then what it will do is, as soon as you publish your code, it will look at your dependencies. What are the packages you are using? What are the versions you are using? If at all there are any public vulnerability that has been called out for those packages. So it will try to look at all those dependencies. It will give you a graphical representation of it. And then you can have a dependable alert in the GitHub, which will alert you that, okay, there is a version of this package which is being fetched from a public repository. This version has a vulnerability reported by different people, and your developer has not updated the package version. So suppose there was a package 1.2. All right, so earlier package A has 1.2.0. Now later on, developer has released A 1.2.1 with bug fixes, or maybe 1.3.0, with bug fixes and other improvements. Now your developer is still using this one because he forgot to update the package. And then what is happening here is that whatever the vulnerability that has been reported, whatever the problems that has been reported, security problems, other issues, that has not been corrected because your developer is using the old one. So how do you track those things? So if at all such kind of updates are there, this dependency alert, dependency graph will give you those information that okay, there is a latest package available for this particular repository. Please go ahead and update this in your application, and then you can communicate the same to the developer organization or developers, and then they can use the updated one. Or it might be possible that in your organization that package A is not allowed at all because this is coming from a competitor business, or this might be coming from a organization or from an individual which does not have a good reputation, whatever, I mean, whatever it may be. So you can have a policy driven thing as well, where you can have a policy that if package is coming from coming with so and so alert, with so and so things, then do not allow, I mean, actually break the CI, I mean, fail the CI. Such kind of things you can do with white source bolt, which is another, if you search white source bolt, you get a, in Azure Artifact, this is very easy to configure all those things quickly. You add that extension in your pipeline, and you will be able to look at what are the dev packages being used in the development, I mean in the platform, to build the software, and from where they are coming, if there is any high critical alert, if there is any warning and all those things. So this is how you can scan your dependencies. It is very important to scan your dependencies. So first of all, you have to have the dependent, I mean, you might need the dependencies based on the platform that you're using. It can be npm package, it can be a Python script, it can be a Docker image, it can be a NuGet package, whatever it may be. Then you have to understand the versioning system of it. How do you what version you're using, what are the what version mechanism the developer or the publisher is using to publish the artifact. Where are you hosting it, whether it is Azure Artifact, whether it is JFrog Artifactory, whether it is some other packaging system, whether it is PowerShell modules that is being hosted on PowerShell public gallery, or on premises implementation. Whatever the things that you have, you need to decide upon that, and then in the last you need to scan those dependencies, that which version is being used, what version is used by the developer, if at all it is secure to use from the publisher point of view, from the version point of view, from the security updates point of view, and how do you give alerts or give some kind of uh, alert mechanism, or how do you kind of stop your CI pipeline to build such application which are kind of avoiding, which are kind of breaking the policies of your organization by using tools such as white source bolt, right? Now once you understand the package management, then the next thing which comes into your mind is application infrastructure management. So you have there are two dependency we are talking about today. One which is already covered, that is package, right? So in your package, in your application development pipeline, you might be using some packages, and how do you manage those packages? That's what we have discussed in the previous topic. Now the next thing which is there is, when you kind of build your application, there are certain things which are application configuration aspect. Like suppose in your application you might be using a SQL server connection string to connect to SQL, right? And so that application can fetch the information, right? So you have some sensitive information in your code base, that is connection string. How do you control those things? Should the developer know the connection string of a development server? Should apart from connection string, there are various API keys. There might be certain API keys that are being used by the application to hit some third-party APIs, so that they can extract some information from some partner API, or maybe some some API which are kind of being exposed by internal teams, right? So those kind of configuration, how do you handle those configuration on the pipeline level, so that the people who are looking at those information are are kind of should be allowed to look at those information. So for example, you have the developer ecosystem, right? I mean, you have a developer team who is working on an application which fetches the information from a database, which is a production database. Now, to fetch the information, definitely a developer will need a key, right? Now, to fetch the information from the production server, you might want to use that key during the pipeline only. On the developer machine, you might not want to give them the actual key. You might want to give them the connection string of a dev box. But during the production, during the CI pipeline of your production application, you might want to use the key of your actual production server. Now you cannot ask your developer, or you cannot provide the actual key to the developer and say that, okay, once you are done with your development, please change this key into your code, and then you publish it to the repository version control, so that our CI pipeline will pick the correct key while building the software which is going to be deployed. These kind of things you cannot provide. Now, how do you handle such situation? One of the things that you need to understand is separation of concern. So separation of concern is, what it says is that whatever the configuration is, there are various types of user who should be having access to those information. Now, one of the thing which is there is configuration custodian. So configuration custodian are the people who should be owner of that configuration. For example, database administrator team, or database engineering team who does the database deployment and who does manage the production workload might have access to the actual production database connection string, and they can be custodian of it. If at all some password changes, if at all some changes on the database server, if at all some information changes on the connection string side, they are you know responsible for making those changes, but they are not at all related to application development team. So they are just configuration custodian. So they know the API keys, they know the keys or the secret information or the configurations being used by the application so that it can get the correct information, but they are nowhere related to the actual users or the people who are consuming those information. So that particular people are called as configuration consumers. So configuration consumers are people like development teams, engineering teams who are actually developing their application by using those configuration which they are getting from customer configuration custodian people. So your application infrastructure infosec teams are the configuration custodian. However, your development team is configuration consumer. They both have a separation of concern. What do we mean by that is that configuration custodian should not be worried about how the consumer is using. They just, I mean, and the similar way, the consumer should not be worried about the values of the configuration. So they just worried about, okay, this is the variable or this is the thing that I need to use. What is the exact value of that, that variable? They might not need to be exposed to. So they should not know the actual connection string. What are the various ways? We will look into those, but they should not be aware of the actual value. They should only be able to use that information, and that is also in a very abstract manner, in a way that it should not expose those information to the consumer. It should be only available to the application on the application level. So when application is deployed on the dev, QA, staging, or prod, application should be able to use those information, the keys, the secrets, the certificates, but it should not be allowed, or the developer should not be exposed to those information, or should not be able to use those information. When you want to make that separation, when you want to have this kind of behavior, you may have to look at something like configuration store. So configuration store are locations or the or the application or the tools which helps you to manage those values or those information in a way so that configuration custodian is able to update or able to configure or able to give the permission to people, to application, to the teams. But at the same time, configuration consumer is only able to see those information as a consumer, but should not be able to see the actual value. Should be able to consume it, should be able to run their application, should be able to fetch the information from the application, but should not be able to see the actual configuration or should not be worried about those configuration. Similar to configuration store, you have something called secret store. So secret store and configuration store are similar in nature, but the only difference is that secret store gives you a little bit more security in terms of the types of things that they handle. So they handle certificates, they handle password strings like password, they handle keys, all those things which has to be which has to be handled in a particular way so that the security of the value is maintained. That is what the secret stores are. There are various platforms in Azure, in Azure ecosystem. There is something called Azure Key Vault, helps you to manage your secrets and configuration in a better way. Similarly, some other platforms like Kubernetes does have a does have options of secret, and other platforms do also have their own implementation. But you whatever the application you're using should have an implementation or should have a thing which can help you to manage these configuration and secrets so that you can maintain a separation of concern. When you want to maintain that when you are able to maintain that separation of concern, then only you will be able to confirm that whatever the information is available to consumer is only able to consume, but they are not able to change those information because they should not be. I mean, configuration custodian is someone who is changing those information. Similarly, a similar way, configuration custodian should not be worried about how the application is using it, because they are just part of the configuration management team, and that's how it should be. Now, when you look at certain solutions, one of the solution that is coming from Microsoft ecosystem is that is Azure Key Vault. Now, Azure Key Vault is a solution from Microsoft which gives you a way to manage your secrets. So you have secrets which like password, connection string, those information which are plain text, and you want to manage those plain text information so that you can and then you can provide that secret to various platforms like CI/CD pipeline in Azure pipeline, or your development ecosystem, or a playbook developer who is developing a runbook in Azure automation account, or anywhere. They can use this secret management tool to manage their secret. Similar to that, they have another option which is called key management. So in key management, you can actually manage your keys, your encryption keys, and so that when suppose you are hosting a database server in Azure database, a database, Azure Database SQL, and Azure SQL database, and in your environment you want to have a customer managed key, then you can create a key over here in the Azure Key Vault and then use that key into that database so that you are encrypting your database using your own key. By default, Azure database also have a inbuilt key, so that is managed by Microsoft. So you do not have any exposure or any information what exactly the key is, but it is encrypted, but the key is not available. But if at all you want to have a the separation of concern thing in picture, where you want to have a place where you can have the control on the key as well, right? Unlike Microsoft, then you can create those keys in Azure Key Vault and then refer that Key Vault with the Azure SQL or services like that. So Azure SQL is just one of the one of the service that I have just explained, but there are various other services where you might want to use these keys to manage your key management. To manage your encryption process. So Azure Key Vault is one option. Now there is another option for certificate management as well. So suppose you have certificates installed on your servers, you might want to manage your certificates on a central location. So whenever someone is requesting or someone wants to look at the information and they need a certificate, they can refer the key vault to get the certificate, and you can have those certificate on a central location instead of putting it somewhere and then forgetting it. So this certificate management, and then when you are having it in a Azure Key Vault, then actually using the identity management solutions like Active Directory, you can manage the control, or you can manage the you can manage who can do what on those certificate key or secret. So suppose on the secret side, for example, you have saved a password or a secret information like password or connection string, and you want people to just have get a list of it, and read it, and then use it. You might not want to have them access to update it. So that kind of narrow down access control can be given on any of these resources if you are using Azure Key Vault or similar solution. So that is the way Azure Key Vault gives you a way, or gives you a feature to manage your separation of concern in your application lifecycle management. We will be looking at it in the demo. So in demo, we will be looking at how to import your keys, and how you can use those keys to manage the separation of concern during the lab. This is we have the we have it in our lab. Now the next thing that is there is hardware security module. So some organizations, they actually need hardware based security module, which is called HSM, to have their key. So the key management system that we discussed here, uh, oops, the key management system that we have discussed here, this is not hardware based, but it is software based. So what do you mean by software based and hardware based is that if you are opting for this HSM module, then what happens, whatever the key that you are mentioning uh, is being stored on the hardware level module. So it is actually on the hardware where the key is actually stored in a particular way. There are various algorithm, and then it is a Microsoft implementation, and then Microsoft has a certification from respective organization for managing those hardwares, to maintain those regulations which actually ask you to have a hardware security module to manage your keys, so that the even if certain people or certain process are hijacked, or and if at all software level keys are compromised, your keys are still not exposed because you are using hardware based. So it is a another requirement in enterprise world, where you want to use HSM due to regulations, and all highly regulated environment use this solution. And in those cases also, Azure Key Vault is going to help you there. Now having this information, having this separation of concern gives you a kind of a flow where you can manage your application development or application uh, deployment life cycle. What do you mean by that is, we call it something called inner loop and outer loop. So what do you mean by inner loop is that until it is on the dev environment. So when when the secrets or the values that is being used by the developer is not really the actual information, or the information that might have that much level of sensitivity, then you might run it. The your developer is keep on running it. Your developer is keep on running it, keep on using those information either locally or from the central system, whatever it may be, but it doesn't really impact, because it is still the development environment. It is still something. For example, a developer may set up a database locally on his system using a sample snap of the actual database and doing his development on the local system itself. He might have pulled out the Docker image on his local system itself. He's making those changes. All those things are happening on the development ecosystem, and that's what we call inner loop. Now you can automate this inner loop again using some pipeline softwares and all, but looking at the sensitivity of the information, it is still development environment, and that is why we are calling it inner loop. Now when as soon as your development environment confirms that okay, things are done, the application that the changes supposed to happen, it goes to a whole cycle of outer loop, and that's what we call this outer loop. Now this thing, right, I mean here, this starting from here, this whole thing is something we call outer loop. Now here, as you can see, as soon as you push the code in the application repository, it has to build and integrate. While building, it has to take the actual repository from where it can get the qualified or the Docker image, which is allowed instead of local Docker image, right? It is getting it in, getting that information from the from the real time, and similarly it is fetching the Azure Key Vault values for secret information like certificates or connection string and all those things, and then it is kind of deploying it into the production or into the staging or into the QA, wherever it is outside the development environment. And then the whatever the monitoring that has to happen, it will happen. And then there are also some configuration, certain things are there which should not be, which might not impact the way developer works. That's why this thing is inner loop, and the whole thing outside of development environment is called as outer loop. And that's how the having a central place to manage such kind of things like dependencies like Docker images, packages, or key vault for storing the key secret information. All those things will help you to refer these information irrespective of what developer has pushed it to the app, the repository. Of course you can have the automation there as well, that developers should not be pushing such information on the version control system, using some git ignore file where you can ignore certain files like connection string files which are normally stored in app setting or web.config or whatever based on the platform. You can ignore those files if at all those files are not pushed, or if at all this is pushed with the developer information. Your CI pipeline will ignore those information and will always pick the information from the key vault or from the CI pipeline software, where you can also define some secret information or variables and all such kind of things. And similarly, you can then deploy. During the deployment also, it might happen that you need a production container registry or a key vault. And similarly, you can think of it all the up, the next processes will take configuration from somewhere developers should not have access to, or the developer should not be concerned about. And similarly, all these processes in the outer loop are not concerned about what the developer has done, because they are running it on the CI pipeline. If at all something fails on the CI pipeline or during the deployment, it will be a feedback loop to the developer that boss, the latest changes you have done is failing the deployment or is failing the build. So you need to look at it, why it is failing. And then this is how the whole picture works, with a separation of concern, having dependency management as well as configuration management for building your software in a pipeline. Now let's clean this up. And now next go to the next side, which is managing identity. Now we have discussed about packages, we have discussed about the configuration. Now all these things ends up to the permission, right? So you have to manage your permissions to the resources that is being used in pipeline, so that the people who are responsible for doing certain things should be only having access to certain things. So for example, we have said that for getting the keys from the configuration store is something that a developer as a consumer will need, but updating that configuration, he should not have access to that, because updating the configuration or updating the connection string is the responsibility of another team who is managing that particular configuration, or who is custodian of that particular configuration. And to implement this, to kind of manage that particular thing, you need to have the identity solution. One of the identity solutions that we have in Azure ecosystem is Azure Active Directory. So you can make use of Azure Active Directory to have a single sign-on kind of functionality. You can integrate Azure DevOps, you can integrate GitHub with Azure Active Directory to implement a single sign-on wherever you need, so that developer might not have to manage a separate key or a separate password or a separate service account or a separate thing to manage, to connect to certain things. So it will be a single sign-on. Similarly, you can have service principals. So in Azure, you have a service principal concept where you create a service principal. You can directly map it to the on-premises world with service account. So you have a service account. It has a a customized access and permission, and wherever you use this service account, you will only be able to do certain things with that particular resource. So for example, if I have created a service account with certain privilege on a Azure Key Vault to get and list of secrets from the Azure Key Vault, then it will only be able to get the list of the Azure Key Vault. It won't be able to make any changes into that particular information. Similarly, if at all I have a user who is a developer, he should only be able to publish the packages, right? Who should not be able to kind of create new packages. He should be only able to publish the packages which are already created, or he should not be able to create a new feed or a new package repository system, or he should not be able to delete the old version of the package. So those kind of things, you want to control a certain particular user, then you can create a service principal instead of giving access to a user, and then you can customize that access, and then wherever it is required in a pipeline or in a software, you can configure this service principal, and then they can have access to that. Now, apart from service principal and single sign-on, there is another option that is given by Azure AD is managed identity. Now, what managed identity gives you, that when you create any resource in Azure, all right, then it has certain identity which are assigned to that particular resource. Now, you can use those identity. All right, those are system created identities, and you can do certain things with those identity. I mean, you can access those resources using those identity to do a specific operation on those particular resources. You can also create your own managed identity. All right, so you create a managed identity associated with a virtual machine. All right, and you give certain accesses to the managed identity. So you give access to do the RDP, or to reset the password, or to maybe do the start and stop the VM or something like that. You give certain certain permissions. Now, a similar kind of thing you can do with the service principal as well. But the difference here is that suppose you deleted that virtual machine in next upcoming release. You got a new virtual machine which is production deployed. Now this dev machine is not anymore needed, or whatever. I mean, this was just a POC or whatever. Now, when you create a managed identity using whatever resource you have created, as soon as you delete the resource, managed identity will automatically gets deleted. So you don't really have to worry about, if at all I have created some customized configuration for this particular resource, if at all I have given some customized access to this particular identity, particular resource. But in case of service principal, when you create a service principal and when you give access to that VM, to the SQL database, or to the Azure Key Vault, and if at all you delete that SQL VM, to delete that particular resource, like database or whatever, this service principal still resides in your Active Directory, and that might be a case or a technical debt after certain time. So after 2 years, you might end up like 100 service principal, which are just sitting in your Active Directory, but they are not being used because all those resources for which it was created, they are done. I mean, they have been deleted. Now, these 100 service principals are a security threat because they are not being used. Still, they might have certain accesses which might get used by someone with a kind of a problem, with kind of a different intention. So those kind of things, managed identity helps you solve it. So that's why managed identity is the preferred option. Where you don't have the option, you go with the service principal, and then you go with the Azure AD single sign-on, where you cannot use either of them. Or you might want to see the quick approach of using a service, and then probably later on during the production or during the deployment, you might want to look at the service principal or managed identity. Quick start thing is Azure AD single sign-on. Now, this is the way to use your identity and give the permissions to specific resources in Azure. Now, the next thing is feature flags. So we have discussed that we have discussed about certain things like package management, right? And similarly, we have discussed about the secret management or configuration management. Right, we have discussed about configuration management, like how do you make sure the separation of concern is maintained, whatever the things that should be known to a developer is only known, and if at all by mistake developer is posting some information, how do you kind of avoid such secret information into the version control, like using git ignore and all. Or if at all still there, then how do you swap those information using certain techniques, and then having those information on a central services like Azure Key Vault or configuration or secret, whatever it may be. Now and then we have discussed how do you configure those things, how do you provide the access, how do you control the permission of those services, like whosoever has access to Key Vault should be only able to list the Key Vault, should be only able to use the Key Vault or whatsoever. Now the next part is, now suppose when you deployed your application, now suppose this is, you have built your application, CI had built the application, your application is deployed on a server, it may be a prod server, all right, after using all these package management and configuration management. Now here, when initially when you the version 1, suppose this was done and version 1 was there, version 1, and it has only A and B features. Now the next version comes with A and B is already there, and then C and D is coming. Now you don't want this C and D available to everyone, right? Because these are new feature, and you might think that it might not be useful for all the people, or might be you want to kind of evaluate whether all these C and D is applicable to everyone or not. I mean, or if at all you want to evaluate what is the performance on a little bit smaller size. Azure does this thing, if you are using Azure Cloud in your environment, you must have heard of like preview feature, public preview, general available. So when they say, or private preview, so when they say the private preview, what do they mean is that publicly it will not be available, right? You have to request for it, and then only you will get the C and D or similar. So similar kind of approach you can also follow in your application development lifecycle. Whenever you are deploying a new application, and if at all you think you want to evaluate because of n number of reason, you might think that C and D might kind of change the way of application being used in your environment, or you are not yet ready for that number of people to use it. Suppose you have like millions of people who are using your application, and you come up with a new feature, and then you think that exposing it to millions of people at a time, it might be causing some issues on your backend servers. So you might want to give it to certain set of people based on the request, based on the method that you might use. Microsoft uses preview and all those naming conventions. You can use something else, but you want to control that particular feature. That's where this feature flag comes into picture. What does is what it does is what it does is that it gives you a certain kind of switch, so you don't really have to make any code changes or something. So you have developed your code in a way that it comes with a switch, and it is very configurable. So you must have seen certain applications where you go into the administration part of it, and you just click on one toggle and it automatically enables certain things in your application. Azure DevOps has certain preview features. So if you go to the Azure DevOps, there is a preview feature kind of thing. And when you enable that particular toggle, all of a sudden those features will be available to you. As soon as you disable that toggle, it will kind of disable those features for you. So similar kind of things, you can toggle it on and off based on and off. So if flag is there, if you have enabled it, then you will see something else, right? You will see a letterbox. I mean, we are just looking it from the functionality point of view. It can do something else, but if at all you have kept it off, right? I mean, if it is not on, then it will do something else for you. So this kind of feature flag, we call it feature flag, and there are various tools or various frameworks which are available there. One of the framework which is there is Dark Launchly. So you can use Dark Launchly to kind of manage this toggle. All right, and using this toggle, just a simple configuration tweak will help you to avoid code changes just to make certain feature available to your users. So you do the development, you do the development, you do the testing, you deploy it on the server, and then as soon as you are ready to enable it for certain user or for all the user, you just go there and do a toggle switch, and this service will be available to your users. This is what we call feature flag. This kind of flag functionality is there. There are tools like Launch Darkly. You can go there, search it, and there is a nice integration with Azure DevOps and Launch Darkly that can help you to implement a feature toggle for your application development, so that you can actually enable something which is which is required for your developers, or which is required for your consumer. And that is how you can manage the features that you want to expose to your users. Now, having said that, now we are going for a break, 10 minutes break. After 10 minutes break, we will come back and we'll be having a demo session by Sanjeev. So Sanjeev will be taking you through with this particular demo where he will be using secrets, managing secrets in Azure Key Vault in a pipeline. And there he will be demonstrating how to create a service principal in Azure. So we have discussed about there is a way to create, there is a way to manage your, permissions in Azure. The service principal is one of them. There are a few other ways. So we will be demonstrating the service principal thing. The next thing he will be doing is he will be creating a key vault. All right, he will be creating a keyword service in Azure, and then he will be using that keyword service in the pipeline. Now, after this demonstration, we will be having our Q&A for today's session. As we have discussed and Vipin has highlighted, uh, based on your participations, we will be first of all, we will be announcing the winner of the previous session after the quiz. And then as soon as you participate in the quiz, and if you have registered for the session in our Eventbrite page as well, we will be taking a lottery in the next session for today's session. And then we will be giving away few vouchers to our participant in next session. So today's session, we will be giving vouchers to the people who has participated in the previous session. We'll be, putting a lottery system. We will be highlighting those names, and we will be contacting them on their email, and that's how it's going to happen after demo. So just wait for 10 minutes, then we will be come back with the demonstration and Q&A. Thank you.
Okay, so now I will try to show the demo how to use the Azure Key Vault in a Azure pipeline. So let me share my screen. Okay, so before moving ahead, as Ashish mentioned, we need to have service principals to get the access from the for the Azure pipeline to the Azure resources. So either we can create Azure Service Principal from the PowerShell script or from the CLI Cloud Shell, which is being provided by the Azure portal itself. So we can use that. Or whenever we create any project on the Azure DevOps, it normally creates by default, it creates a service principal for you so that you can use that in your project pipeline to get the Azure resources. For this demo, we will be using the default service principals which get created when we create any project in the Azure DevOps organization. So I'll show the how to create a service principal as well in the Azure CLI or the Cloud Shell. So if you go to the Azure portal, if you see here, there is a button here. If you click that, it will create the Azure CLI command prompt where you can write the PowerShell scripts and it can create the Azure resources for you. So you can use the most of the Azure commands which is available. So I'll use the Azure CLI to create the service principal, but still I'll be using the existing service principal which gets created by the Azure DevOps project. So to create a Azure service principal, we will be using the AZ command. The command is AZADSP create hyphen for add class hyphen n, and let's say we'll be giving the name is let's give it Key Vault demo SP 26 December. So we will be creating this. Okay, so these are the information which whenever we create a service principal, we need these information, like the app ID is the most important one, because by this app ID we normally recognize the service principal. So it's a unique ID for any service principal you create. So next we will be creating a resource group, and then we'll be creating a Azure Key Vault. Then we'll be create a project in Azure DevOps organization. Then we'll be trying to link the Key Vault into the Azure project pipeline, and we can see that how we can retrieve the data from the Azure Key Vault to the pipeline. So
Sanjeev, can you please minimize this MS Team window in the MS Team? Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So let me go ahead and either you can create the resource groups through the PowerShell CLI, or you can use the GUI as well. So for normal, whenever we go for the automation process, we usually go ahead with the PowerShell scripts. So it's easy to automate because you cannot come ahead and create if you need multiple resource groups and resources, you cannot come into the Azure portal and create it every time. So better to go ahead with the scripts to automate the processes. So I'll go ahead with the GUI, and later on I'll share the scripts, how to create the resource groups and all this thing through the PowerShell command. Okay. I'll go ahead and create a resource group. Let's name it demo AZ-400 December. So I'll go ahead and create it. Okay. So the resource group is created. I will add a key vault to this one. So let's name it key vault AG pipeline. So for time being, I'll review and create it. Meanwhile, when the deployment is progress, I can go ahead and create a new project in my DevOps organization. Let's name it demo key vault 26 December. So let's name it like this. So here I'm just creating a project inside my organization, and currently we don't have any repo, so I will just go ahead and initialize. So my repo is I have created a normal repo. Now let's see if the key vault is created. It's still, the deployment is in progress. Okay, so my key vault is created. So I will go ahead and try to add a secret. So there are different kinds of things which you can store inside a key vault. As Assis mentioned, like we can store some keys where, let's say, if you have a public and private key setup where you need to generate the private key based on the public key available, and you want to store those keys inside the key vault, that you can store into the key vault keys. Let's say we have secrets where it's a key value mapping where you name the key and what is the value of that key you want to store it, that you can store. And the certificates, like also you can store it, the PFX files over here. Or like as is mentioned about the HSM, the hardware-based storage, hardware-based details over here in the key vault. That also we can store, but I will be storing a secrets. Let's say I'll store it as, I'll name it as password, DB password. So, and the value I am providing is test@123. So I am just creating it. So I have created the secret inside it. So I will go ahead and try to create a pipeline now and try to integrate that key vault to my pipeline, and I'll see if I can use it. So I'm just taking and I'll create just a starter pipeline over here. So here is my, it's a normal YML file which gets created if you create the pipeline. So if I'll try to use the key vault, so let's say my subscription is this one, I authorize it. Okay, so I need, this is failing because we need to, in the access policies, we have not added the project to get to fetch the key vault into our pipeline. So in the access policy, we need to add it, the get end list, and
so here you are actually, defining the separation
permissions.
of concerns, right?
Exactly.
So someone who is creating those secrets may be a different person, but someone who is using those pipeline in those pipeline may be a different person. So using this kind of, kind of a setup, you will be able to establish a separation of concern. And that's what Sanjeev is trying to demonstrate over here. There are
Yeah.
different ways. This is one of the way that we are demonstrating.
Yes. So if I normally, whenever we create a project, it gets created with your subscription name, like the ID in which you logged in. So in the service principal, if I select my name, it will show me the project name with my name with the project name. So I select that one and I add it. So now I go ahead, I'll search it with keyword name. So I'll choose my subscription. So my key vault is showing now, so I can add it. So this one should go ahead and so this is what I will do. I will try to I'll here I will try to write one line of code which will publish this password to a text file, I can say. So my keyword, let's go ahead and copy this name. To let's say a secret.txt file. Then we will publish it. To publish that secret.txt file.
So it is just for demonstration purpose that we are actually fetching the secret and we are putting it in a text file so that we can demonstrate that actually we are getting the value from the key vault and we can use it in our pipeline. So in general, in production, you will be using that password to do the operations like building or connecting to the database to do the dev test or any kind of thing. But you might not want to put it like a plain text password that we are doing it for demonstration only. So yeah, just to highlight this is just for demonstration, right?
So the concept like where Ashish mentioned the inner loop and outer loop. So if you'll see, we are still in the outer loop, but I just wanted to face because the Azure DevOps and Azure Key Vault is separate Azure resources. I just wanted to integrate the Azure resources into the DevOps pipeline. Normally, we can do like we can store this value into our variable groups, and we can use those variable groups to inject our connection string, or password to our configuration file. We can generate it during the deployment or publish or while running a release pipeline. So I am just doing a dry run to show you guys that we can get the data from the Azure resources into the Azure DevOps and publish it into a TXT file. Normally, I'm just demoing it, but this is not the principle we follow in enterprise world. So I'm just saving it and running it. So let's see.
Yes, in enterprise world, what the pattern you will follow is you will have certain things in variables to use it in your pipeline. You will have certain things in your key vault so that when the production deployment is happening, the value that is going to come will not come from something which is exposed to build engineers or the developers, but it will actually come from a keyword resource where your security people are controlling that information, and that's how the separation of concern gets implemented in a productionalized world. I mean, in a production. But here we are just trying to demonstrate that okay, these are the various pieces that you can use, and collectively use them to establish those patterns as you may require. Right.
Yeah. So I just run that pipeline. I think we need to author permit it to run the pipeline from our subscription. So let me check the permission in the access policies. Okay, I think I didn't save it. So okay, now let's run it again.
And Sanjeev, there is a comment that you may have to look at the pipeline. There might be some space that you might have missed during the publish task. So,
Yeah.
okay, let's run
So
it. Let's run it.
yeah. So if you see, let me, in the Azure Key Vault task, if you see, it is showing the number of secrets found in Key Vault pipeline is 1, and the number of enabled or unexpired secrets found in Key Vault pipeline is 1. So I had a hello world echo script, which was a one-line script. I displayed it as a name, and here if you see if you see my YML file, then I just added 2 tasks to one is a single line hello world print into our logs. Then in the second task, I just fetched the key vault data into my pipeline and publish it into the secret.txt file. So we'll go ahead and check if you see the pipeline is uploading the data into the secret file. Now we will go ahead and see in the summary page. If you see, it is showing it has published one file. So we will go ahead and check it out. What is the file? And it is the secret.txt file. We'll download it and see what is the data. And if you see the secret.txt, it is showing test.123. So this is how we normally create the pipeline. You can say that we can integrate the Azure resources into our pipeline. Here we just demonstrated how we can integrate the Key Vault into our Azure pipeline. So this is one way of doing it. You can create your own service principal and integrate it with your own pipeline as well. That is the way. But also there is a way, whenever you create a project, it creates a default service principal, and you can use that. And that's what we used. And it has only the get and set list permission. You cannot change anything into the Azure Key Vault because we set that permission into our Key Vault practices. And that's it from my side. And now Assis can take over it. And
okay. Thanks. Thanks, Sanjeev. Thanks for the demonstration. Now, as you know, we are going to open the quiz for you. So we'll be sharing the quiz link in a while on the screen, and then we will request you to kind of go through the quiz and respond with the answers. After the quiz, we'll be kind of share the winner from the last time quiz participation. So the what I would say, the prerequisite is that you should be registered on the on the uh, Eventbrite page of our session, and you should be participating in the quiz to be eligible for the free exam voucher that we will be having a lucky draw from. So let me share the screen and share the quiz URL with you guys. Just give me a moment. Share page. All right, share. And yep. All right, so probably you should be able to see the screen, and so you need to go to this URL. We'll be posting the URL link in the chat as well, or you can scan the QR code on the screen and visit the URL. And there will be a Microsoft form where you need to fill your responses for this quiz. We'll be opening this URL for next 10 minutes, so it will be public for 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, we will be disabling this link. So please go ahead and submit your answers or responses within next 10 minutes. So right now it is 8:57, approximately 9:07 or 9:10, we will disable the link. So please go ahead, and in the meanwhile, we will be open for Q&A. So if you are done with your quiz, we can post your queries and we will be answering that in the Q&A. One more request that we have from our community member is that, if you are appearing for the exam, and if if you think that our session has been helpful for you to give you some help during your preparation for the exams, for AZ-104, AZ-900, or the current one that is going for AZ-400, please use hashtag AzureTalk and Azure Easy on your social media post, so that we can track those posts. We can publish it in our community, so that people it can spread the word that how helpful these materials are. And if people are preparing for it, they can refer these testimonies to to know that it is actually helping you. So I mean, we just need a request. I mean, we just want to request you all that if you can use these hashtags, we will be able to know that if we are able to kind of help you there in your preparation journey. That's the whole. And also, if you have any feedback, please feel free to share your feedback in our Azure Talk Telegram group. We have already shared the Telegram group in the link, so you can join us on our YouTube channel or in our Telegram group, Azure Talk or Azure DevOps Pro. That is our DevOps group, and share your feedback, whatever it may be, positive, negative, so that we can improve our session delivery in our upcoming sessions.
This link will be active for 5 more minutes. Good to see a lot of responses on the quiz. Many participants are participating in the quiz. A lot of people have completed. Few people are still doing. We have 4 more minutes. After that, this quiz link will be disabled. Two more minutes to get this link used for quiz. Be quick, be fast. In next 2 minutes, this link will be disabled. And just to remind all the participants who are appearing for this quiz, to win this exam voucher, make sure you register for all the sessions of AZ-400 on Eventbrite. Last minute for this quiz. Last minute for this quiz. In next few seconds, this link will be disabled. So thank you everyone, all those who appeared for the quiz. This quiz link is disabled, and now Ashish, over to you. You can announce the winner for the last session, who appeared for the quiz in the last session.
Yep, sure. Thanks, Vipin. So let me share my screen. All right. So. Oops. Just okay, so as you can see on the screen, we have this wheel there. We have list of people who participated last time in quiz, as well as they have registered in our Eventbrite page. So when we compared all the names, we got all these 34 entries, out of which we are going to run it and randomly select few people for giving the vouchers. So let me start this. Right. So the first name is Bhavani. So I'm just copying this information, and congratulations, Bhavani, and removing it from the occurrence and putting it somewhere so that we can contact later. Now let's go for the next participant. Okay. All right, so Neeraj is the next one. We'll be getting the voucher. We'll be soon contacting you over the email. And we will inform, we will actually post in our group as well. Okay, so now let me remove this. Okay, so now we have another 32 people. All right, Krishan Kumar. And putting it. Okay, now let's go for. So this is our fourth winner. It's Elena. So we're going to copy it, and soon we will contact you over your email. So this is our fifth one. And this is Premal. Removing. And all right. And now this will be our last one. And this is the. So Ashish here, so we'll be contacting you and removed it. So we have selected total 6 people. We'll be contacting you guys soon. And for today's session, we will be conducting the similar kind of random selection for the people who have participated this time. And we'll be giving vouchers to them in the next session based on the lottery. So this is how we are conducting the session. And let me just conclude the session by sharing our last slide. And right, just give me a moment. We will just take next few minutes and then we will conclude for the day. All right, so as you can see, this is our, this is the speaker's information that you can see on a screen. And Sanjeev, who is senior software engineer and who helped us with the demonstration, you can connect with him using the, the LinkedIn ID. if you want to connect, and you can connect with me using the LinkedIn ID that is on the screen, or you can also find my DevOps, my website where we have our group details as well as some of the sessions we have done in past. You can, if you have not yet registered for the future sessions, you can go ahead on the first URL, that is azurez.com/az-400. There you can register for the next sessions. We still have upcoming sessions in this exam track AZ-400, where we will be covering the next modules. We have our Telegram groups for Azure, which is AzureTalk, having more than 9,000 people across the globe. You can join there. You can discuss various things related to Azure, and there are various, starting from the beginner question till the expert level. We try to help each other and we try to grow together. So you can definitely go there. We continuously post our session details over there, so you will get all the information there as well. And as soon as we will process the media file for current today's session recording, we will publish the recording details on our group as well. We have our DevOps group, t.me/Azure DevOps Pro. You can go ahead and join our DevOps group. You can put your question related to DevOps. I see there are a few questions we could not be able to answer them. So if you still have some question, you can go ahead and join our AzureTalk and Azure DevOps Pro group and put your questions over there, and we will be more than happy to answer the questions. Uh, all our sessions, recordings are hosted on YouTube channel, which is Azure Talk. So you can go to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Azure Talk, and you can watch our all previous sessions as well as all the next sessions or the future sessions will be hosted there. With these information, we would like to really thank you everyone who has joined our session. I hope all these sessions are helpful to you. I hope we are able to, justify the content, having the time constraint that we have, and all the information that we are sharing. It will be, posted, including the slide links on the Telegram group, as well as we'll be sharing the same information over email with all the registered participant on the Eventbrite page. So if you have not registered yet, please go ahead and register. You will be getting all the future session notification. Uh, all the sessions are hosted through MS Team. Yes, MS Team does have a download thing, but you can join the MS Team event using web option as well. So if at all you're having challenges while joining the session, while you're downloading the tool, please go ahead and select the web option. There is a web option there, and you can actually go ahead and join the session without having to download the binary. Having said that, I think we are done for the today. And let me know if you have any question. Please post in our Azure Talk or Azure DevOps Pro group. We will definitely try to answer all those queries. Thank you so much. Have a good day, good night, everyone. Thank you. Bye.